from Thailand.
Alright, so
Now, this is an interesting matchup because it's already played out.
they are not doing finals. They're doing the third place match before finals. So they're kind of yeah. I'm not sure I'll be able to record finals then if they're doing this. So yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna get to this. Just go through it. So yeah.
3 copies of Eradicator Epidemic Virus, which you only really see if you think that your tournament environment is going to be filled with spellbooks.
We probably should quickly mention that he is also playing Dragon Rulers.
Yep, this is another Dragon Ruler versus Dragon Ruler matchup. Another interesting point, even though Suebyoubol's deck is anti-spellbook, that didn't help him last round when he lost to David Keener from the USA, who is playing spellbooks.
It's really kind of an interesting thing. A lot of people would say that the spellbook deck is far more powerful due to Spellbook of Judgment, but they're unwilling to play it because of Eradicator Epidemic Virus and the ability of that card to just completely wipe you out of games. But the same goes for if you're trying to get to Eradicator Epidemic Virus as fast as possible to knock spellbooks out of the game. If you're making your entire game plan, do this, do this, do this, but the card never comes, then you might be out of luck.
The shuffling is done. Now they're determining the start player.
And it looks like it's going to be Suebyoubol. You can already see something interesting in his hand there. That's Book of Eclipse, a card that flips all monsters face down. But during the end phase, your opponent flips back up, and they draw 1 card for each. Starts things off by setting 2 spell or trap cards. Now normally, that would be a sign that your opponent's got nothing. But Suebyobol's deck is pretty unique in that it runs 7 traps, which is far more than the 1 or 2 that most Dragon Ruler decks play.
We should rename his deck as Trap-centric.
There's more traps than that old deck had plants. All right, Kudo's up for his first turn. First, he's going to discard Tempest and Reactant to go get a Redox from his deck and summon it.
Now for both players, it's probably a challenge to get over their loss in the semi-final and fully concentrate on this match. There's still a lot on the line because the third place finisher gets a copy of the second place prize card at this event. So there's still a lot on the line for both of these duelists.
He's too many cards. He's got 2, 7, and 5 in hand. I don't know. He's got 6 now. Alright, Suebyobol's up and he discards Lightning and Blaster to go ahead and search a Tempest out of his deck. Tempest hits the field. Nothing else. He goes ahead, banishes both of the dragons he just discarded. Summon a Redox from his hand. Now that's the first searching Dragon Ruler effect he's played. So he's played Tempest, or rather Lightning, Redox, and Blaster this turn. Thinks long and hard before going ahead and taking a burner. That'll give him another summon if he's got another dragon in his hand. Goes ahead, plays the burner, discarding a blaster. It's going to give him another blaster. That's all 3 blasters out of the deck right away. And you got to wonder if maybe that might come back to bite him if he needs to discard it later on to destroy a monster. As it stands, none of his monsters can take out that Redox, so he's going to need to dig into the extra deck. Which he does right now. And he appears to have one of his side deck cards in his extra deck by accident. Goes ahead, summons Big Eye. Well, that'll fix your Redox problem, get it out of the way, and let you make an Xyz summon with the remaining dragon on the field. Brief pause in the action. Kudo's thinking about it. I get the impression that he doesn't really want to give up his Redox, and he doesn't really want to see a Dracosac on the other side of the table. And he does have a say in the matter with Effect Failure, negating Big Eye's effect before it can be activated. This is valuable because if he had allowed Suebyoubol to activate it first, and he was able to chain with an effect like Book of Moon or Book of Eclipse, Effect Failure would lose its target, and Suebyoubol would get that Redox. Sets one more card face down, makes no attacks, and that's the end of the turn. So Redox goes back to Kudo's hand, and he's up. Now this is a sticky situation. This is more relevant face-down spell and trap cards than Kudo's probably seen for the entire event, even in their last match. They're starting off with a more defensive play, discarding Reactin to get Redox, the 3000 defender. He's got another Redox in his hand, but will we see it join its buddy? Nope. Redox is going away, banished for Sacred Sword of 7 stars. That'll get him 2 draws, and since he hasn't actually used Redox effect this turn, he could go get another dragon if we had him, but I believe he's got all of his potential searches either in hand, in graveyard, or banished at the time. Nope, that is indeed the case. He won't be searching for anything. But that leaves him to resummon the dragon from his hand if he so desires. He goes ahead and pitches Burner and Title to search out a blaster from his deck and summon it. Now that blaster can't attack, so he's going to have to do something else if he wants to get rid of Big Eye. He is one messy graveyard. He's going to go ahead and banish. Looks like he's pretty sure he wants to banish Tempest. Or maybe not. Because I mentioned earlier that it's kind of like having a second hand that you can play from, and now he's literally playing it as if it is a second hand.
Yes.
Note to everybody watching at home, please don't actually do this. Drives judges crazy.
Well, some people would say they're crazy in the first place for becoming judges. But we don't think so.
I'm feeling judged right now. Alright, Redox is back on the field, and he's going to go ahead and Xyz summon.
Are you saying I'm being judgmental?
Oh my god. For Big
this
Eye.
made Kevin cringe.
I don't think Kevin wants to hang out with us anymore.
Can you blame him?
Well, Big Eye sure doesn't. His all-seeing gaze has been cut short by Book of Eclipse, turning every monster on the field face down. Now that's going to stop Kudo from using his Big Eye's effect, because it was just summoned this turn. It can't be flipped back face up. But he is going to get a free draw out of it in the end. Stream has hit the field next. Tempest was banished for that summon, so he gets a Wind Dragon from his deck, taking Dragoonity Corsica. Has not used his normal summon yet, so he's going to go ahead and summon that Corsica, and I think we're about to see a Synchro Summon.
What will he go for in this situation?
I'd guess Crimson Blader.
Guessed right.
Not only will he be able to get rid of that Big Eye, he's also going to shut down the rest of his opponent's plays, or rather he would have if it weren't for Threatening Roar. Threatening Roar is actually a really useful trap card. You can activate it anytime before your opponent's battle phase is over during their turn, and it stops them from declaring attacks for the rest of the turn. So that means that Kudo's got a Crimson Blader left on the field, stranded, along with a Big Eye, also stranded. So he is vulnerable to a reversal with a Crimson Blader play next turn. He has got Super Rejuvenation, though, and a pair of face-down Speller Traps himself. And he's going to go ahead and get himself 4 more cards.
So he's basically saying, okay, you're playing with a lot of face-down spells and traps. I can do that too.
It's a dangerous game to play this time, though, because it's the first duel. The side decks haven't been used yet, and these duelists played against each other yesterday. So they should have a good idea of how many traps the other person plays, because they've probably seen most of their decks through all the drawing and discarding.
Book of Moon.
Book of Moon puts that Big Eye right back where he found it. Although it does not appear that the Big Eye was turned face up. Blaster, however, was just turned face up, flip summoned. It has 2,800 attack points, so it could crash with the Blader, or it could take out the face-down Big Eye. Monster Reborn is next. And Kudo doesn't seem particularly pleased about that. He holds him off as he reaches for Kudo's title.
Now, looking at the deck list, most of the duelists don't use Monster Reborn in their Dragon Ruler decks. Why do you think that is?
There's probably something... He's probably trying to go after the cards that he didn't play in his own main deck, because he was spending extra space on trying to beat spellbooks. So, for example, he might not have enough tuners. He's not a... Yes, no, I'm reading that correctly. He's not running Effect Veiler, so his only tuners are the Dragoonity Corsica and the Flamvel Guard. So the Monster Reborn can act as an extra tuner for him if his opponent's already played one. In this case, though, he just wants a dragon.
It's interesting, though. A card like Monster Reborn is in previous years, we have seen it played in pretty much every deck, and now seeing a situation where some of the top decks are not playing it.
We've actually seen it with a lot of the cards that are traditionally used in every deck. Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm. There was a time, basically when Dragon Rulers first came out, that nobody played any of those cards. And the reason that things like Dark Hole, got back into the decks is because they needed mass removal to deal with spellbook decks. Because when a spellbook deck gets you with Jaugen the Spiritualist and Kaiku on the field, one stops special summons, the other stops you from banishing. The combination of them makes your deck do nothing. You need to be able to get rid of both of them at once, because just getting rid of one isn't enough. Looks like Big Eye's back in action, but he's been hit by Effect Veiler again. Next up, Blaster back from the graveyard. And he's going to send it after the face-down Big Eye. That'll do it for Big Eye, who doesn't have enough defense to stand up to Blaster's 2,800 attack points. But he still hasn't done anything about that Crimson Blader. Kudo's up, and I'm sure he'd like nothing more right now than to smack that Big Eye with Crimson Blader. But Kudo added another card to his spell and trap card zones last time around. And after the Blader was stymied by Threatening Roar the first time around, you gotta wonder if it's going to happen again. Alright, looks like... looks like he's deciding on what to banish to bring back Blaster. And it looks like Redox and Corsica are going to take the rest of the duel off. And because Redox was banished, Kudo gets to get another Earth Dragon out of his deck. And he's going to take a copy of Redox. Kudo plays that Lightning Vortex yet again. Looks like it's been doing a lot of good work for him in this tournament. That'll destroy Blaster and Big Eye, leaving only the face down. And there's that second Threatening Roar. Crimson Blader is held at bay once again. Taking a quick check to see how many Threatening Roars are in there. It's 2. One more left. Only one dragon in Suebyobol's grave, though.
It's really interesting to me how a choice like having Threatening Roar in your main deck can completely change how the mirror match goes along.
Yeah, Threatening Roar is pretty big. It's a lot like Swift Scarecrow, except you can actually use it to protect your own monsters.
Yeah.
So it seems like he made that decision specifically to stop situations like this from leading to losses. And wouldn't you know it, it looks like Big Eye is back again. And this time, Its effect has been activated successfully.
Or is it?
Well, it's activated successfully, but we'll see if Kudo has anything to say about its resolution. And he does. He's got Forbidden Chalice. That'll negate Big Eye's effect, but it also increases its attack to 3,000. He does not take the opportunity to attack the Crimson Blader. And at the end of the turn, Blaster returns to Kudo's hand.
Why do you think he didn't attack in this situation?
Now that I think of it, it's because he can't.
Okay.
I forgot how Big Eye works for a second there. If its activation is not negated, even if its effect is, you cannot attack with it.
I wasn't sure about that.
Alright, he's going to go ahead and banish Blaster for Sacred Sword of 7 stars. That's 2 more cards. Thinking about whether or not he wants to use Blaster's effect. Looks like no, because Gold Sarcophagus is up next. That lets you banish any card from your deck, face up, and you'll retrieve it during your second standby phase after the activation. Now he banishes Tempest straight from his deck, which lets him activate that card's effect, and that'll get him a Tempest. Or rather, a Lightning.
Looks like that card really works well with the Dragon Rulers, but we haven't seen it before today, have we?
Actually, Gold Sarcophagus was popping up a lot. It was in the North American WCQ winners deck. Were you not seeing it in... Is it not played as much in European events?
I think it is. I specifically thought about today. I don't remember seeing it in a match that we had seen earlier today.
Yeah, today... Yeah, that is the first time it's cropped up today. Speaking of cropping up, more dragons cropping up from Kudo's hand and graveyard. And deck in the case of Tempest. Or Blaster, rather. But it looks like Suebyoubol had his 3rd threatening roar down. So once again,
Wow.
Crimson Blader is stuck on the sidelines. It must be nice. But it's not like the lack of a battle phase is going to stop Kudo from trying to win this thing. He Xyz summons his own number 11 Big Eye and uses it to try to take control of Suebyobol's. Suebyoubol has Forbidden Chalice for his own, so they've traded chalices on each other's Big Eyes. Both have 1 material remaining, and it looks like Kudo might be out of ways to stop himself from losing the Big Eye war. Thinking long about whether or not there's anything left for him to do this turn. He uses an awful lot of dragon abilities.
And he has a lot of banished cards right now.
Yeah, I can't even... Like, when I play this deck, I have to mark down all the dragon rulers that I've used because I can't remember them all. But it looks like Kudo has absolutely no doubt in his mind what he has and hasn't done yet this turn. Can't quite see clearly, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot left for him this turn. I see Max C, I see Trifortress Ops, I see Dark Hole.
And he needs to be careful right now. I mean, we saw him already get a slow play warning earlier.
Yes.
And right now, it doesn't really look like there's a lot he can do.
I think he's thinking about using the Dark Hole and just blasting everything.
Brief discussion with the judges and the translators. That's incredible. It looked like Kudo was doing everything that his deck could turn out.
Yep.
And his opponent was able to stay in the game by use of his bigger trap and spell lineup.
Yep. It's actually something that I'm surprised we haven't seen more of. One of the things that Dragon Ruler decks hate the most is trap cards, but nobody's playing them because they're all playing combo decks of their own.
Something happened.
Decision has been reached.
Marked down on the resultant slip. As soon as we get information what it was, we will pass it on.
And Kudo decides everything must go. And he dark holes his own field of Crimson Blader and Big Eye to take out his opponent's Big Eye. Something along the lines of, if I can't have your Big Eye, you can't have mine. Or anything else for that matter. At this point, there's not a whole lot of cards on either side of the table. We haven't seen the huge super rejuvenation plays that have really defined the rest of the Dragon Ruler matches we've seen today.
But as you mentioned a few times before, the graveyard really is like a second hand, so there still are options for both players.
Yep, and speaking of, here's Blaster from the graveyard.
And Max C.
So now we're going to get some card drawing action.
Finally.
I know you just couldn't wait to see more cards being drawn.
Yeah, more cards is more fun.
Yep. Alright, so he banished a couple of Dragon Rulers to bring back that Blaster. It's a Tempest and a Redox, so he can get Draguni di Corsica and Reactin. At this point, it'll be interesting to see if he decides to continue playing this turn. By getting those two search effects, that's a massive leg up for him. And he could just take a direct swing and leave it at that, and deny Kudo the ability to draw any more cards. Alternatively, he could use that Reactant he just picked up to try to get another Dracosac on the field, but that would be a lot of cards. He'd have to give up... Ooh. Kudo would get one for the Dragon Ruler summon, one for the Dracosac summon, and another one for the Mecha Phantom Beast token. And that might be far too steep a cost.
He went for the swing there.
Yep. Well, either way you do it, you got to take the damage when you can get it, especially in a really defensive duel like this one. Asks for a quick hand check. 2 cards in hand. And he says, you know what? That's all you're getting from me. You're up.
I think the Tempest with a die on it is the one he banished with the gold sarcophagus.
Yep. Hard to believe it's only been one turn since that happened.
A lot of things
So
have
much
happened
stuff
in that time.
I think that's part of why people like playing with Dragon Rulers. They do a lot of stuff. People like doing a lot of stuff. It's the same thing that makes decks like Mermail so popular.
Or spellbooks.
Spellbooks do kind of a lot of the same thing. I think it appeals more to, just fans of spellcasters. There's a lot of spellcaster fans ever since, Dark Magician.
That is very true. It's interesting if you compare the two decks that are in this, primarily in this tournament. The Spellbook deck has been around for a few months, or for nearly a year now, and has developed over that time, whereas the Dragon Rulers basically just popped into existence after a lot of Tachyon Galaxy was released. So they took very different paths to being the top decks in the current format.
Hmm.
And I personally talked to a lot of players who the whole time really liked spellbooks because they like spellcasters and tried to make it work, and found that with finally with a lot of Tachyon Galaxy, they could.
The interesting thing about the Spellbook deck is that when Spellbooks first started coming out, of course, it wasn't the Spellbook deck, it was the actual Prophecy deck. Now we're seeing the variant where only one Prophecy monster is played much of the time. So it's morphed from the Prophecy deck into the Spellbook deck.
Alright, looks like we got Blaster and Tidal banished to summon out Redox. And that'll get him a pair of searches. So he's got a couple dragons. But does he have enough fuel left to summon them? Well, Crimson Blade is a fire monster, so he could banish that to bring out Blaster. But it looks like he's going to go ahead and discard a Stream and a Tidal.
He has nearly nothing left in his deck anymore.
And all that's from searching. There wasn't really... Well, no, there's one Rejuvenation play, but it's not... It's not the 6-card Super Rejuvenation that we were seeing in the past couple rounds. Alright, Tidal and Redox team up to make Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac.
Well, haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, is it her?
This was
It's-
this was Big Eye's Duel to Shine, but it seems that they've all been exhausted at this point. So Dracosac's going to bat clean up. Alright, goes ahead, tributes his own Dracosac to destroy Blaster, and then tributes both of his tokens to tribute summon a Blaster. Now that's useful because that Blaster isn't going back to his hand at the end of the turn. It's going to be there to dish out damage and make Suebyoubol deal with it.
That's also always important to remember. There's, especially with something like Dragon Rulers, that you also can just plain out tribute summon them. Most of the time they're special summoned, but it doesn't mean that you can't tribute summon them.
Alright. Suebyoubol up. It looks like he's discarding Reactant and Tempest. Activate Reactant's effect. That's going to be a Redox. Brief discussion between the players, and now Suebyobol's going to dig into his graveyard. Just check in, see how it's doing. And then normal summon Dragoon di Corsica. Ah.
Wow.
Now, Colossal Fighter, it's a synchro monster. It's just one tuner, one or more non-tuners, 2800 attack, much like the Blaster on the other side of the table, but when it's destroyed in battle, it can revive any warrior-type monster from Suebyobol's graveyard. Colossal Fighter is a warrior-type monster. So, what we're probably going to see happen here is he's going to try to crash his monster into Kudo's, then revive his own monster and attack directly. However, that's not going to work this time because Colossal Fighter has another ability, and that it gets 100 attack points for every warrior in the graveyards, of which Kudo has one, the Crimson Blader. Yep, looks like Kudo pitched a Max C, and having realized that his Colossal Fighter plan wasn't going to work out the way that he intended it to, Suebyoubol ended his turn. Or did not end his turn.
I don't think he ended
didn't
his
end
turn.
his turn.
He just the card draw was just for the Maxi. He checked how many cards are left in his opponent's deck,
Okay.
I think it was 7, if I counted correctly.
And sometimes you can't tell with the hand waving.
Yeah.
So, plan 2. Try to run your opponent out of cards by special summoning as many monsters as you possibly can. I don't think that's something we've seen at all this entire weekend.
No. I find it really interesting that his strategy seems to be to outlast his opponent.
Sometimes that's all you have to do. Both spellbooks and dragon rulers go through a lot of cards, and sometimes all you need to do is not lose to win. Check reveals that there are 7 cards left in Kudo's deck. Goes ahead, attacks with Colossal Fighter.
Reminds him.
Finds that the Crimson Blader is there. So only Blaster is defeated. Tempest attacks directly, but Kudo's got Trifortress Ops, and that's going to put a stop to this battle phase. Looks like we're taking a quick check on the text of Trifortress Ops. Doesn't seem to be a card that many duelists are familiar with here this weekend. Kudo does check in with the camera. And then Suebyoubol goes ahead and attacks anyways with his 2800. Or did he not attack anyways? No,
Yeah.
It looks like we're confirming how Trifortress Ops works. Alright, main phase 2. Suebyoubol goes ahead and discards Stream, along with another dragon, to special summon Tidal from his deck. Looks like he's going back to the run out of cards strategy. Now if he could get another level 1 tuner on his field, he could make a second Synchro Summon, along with an Xyz Summon, and a summon of tokens with Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack. But that still wouldn't quite be enough to get things done this turn. But it would leave Kudo with very few cards left to fight back with. Goes ahead, uses all of his monsters to summon number 7 Lucky Straight. If there was one thing that I did not think that I would see this weekend, it's number 7 Lucky Straight. It's a dice rolling card. You detach one material, roll a 6-sided die twice. The best result among them is multiplied by 700 and becomes Lucky Strike's attack points. And if the combined roll is a 7, as it was right there, 5 and 2, he can either send all other cards on the field to the graveyard, special summon any monster from your hand or either graveyard, or draw 3 cards and then discard 2. So you get a Monster Reborn that also works on your hand, Graceful Charity, or Super Chaos Emperor Dragon.
Wow.
Seems pretty good.
I think I actually have never seen this card play so far.
That's gutsy.
This is amazing.
Why not? You're in Vegas, roll them.
True enough.
Now, unfortunately for him, that Trifortress Ops, despite his good fortune in rolling a 7, even if he were to choose to send all other cards on the field to the graveyard, that Trifortress Ops is staying where it is. It's unaffected by everything else.
He's going for the cards.
Looks like it. He's going to go ahead and draw a couple himself. Discarding 2 copies of Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. And what that got him from his empty hand is Super Rejuvenation. Which, given the number of dragons he's discarded this turn, is practically a new hand.
No, it looks only like
No, only
he
2?
drew 2 cards. But still, that was an incredible turn.
That's pretty good.
That was a lot of stuff that I haven't seen yet this weekend. A board of Colossal Fighter and Lucky Stripe. That is amazing.
And Trifortress Ops. Can't forget about Trifortress Ops. Alright, so at this point, Kudo probably knows what his last couple cards are. I mean, most of his deck is either in the graveyard or banished, so by process of elimination, it's easy to figure out what you have left to draw into. Now, he rolled a 5 on Lucky Straight, and that means that his attack points are 3,500. Kudo goes ahead, banishes some Earth Monsters for a Redox. He's got a level 6 and a level 7. Don't quite match yet. And he also got that Tempest that he had banished earlier back at the start of the turn. It seems like ages ago, but it was really only 2 turns.
It was. And just in case if you lost track of what happened last turn, like I did for a second, the reason why he didn't attack with Lucky Straight was because it was his second main phase.
Alright, he's going ahead, discarding Lightning. One of those 3 cards left in his deck is a Tempest, but now it's 2 cards left in his deck.
Better shuffle that, okay?
It's very important. Many possibilities. Alright, now he's got 2 level 7s and Trifortress Ops. Not certain. I think he's checking his graveyard to see if he's got any big eyes left. Which it looks like he does. Does he want to go ahead and risk that and have a go at Lucky Straight? I feel like I'd do it. You got nothing to lose.
He basically has to finish it now, doesn't he?
You got 2 turns.
Doesn't
Your
have
opponent
a
doesn't have much left, and you got to get rid of a 3,500 guy and Colossal Fighter who you can't beat in battle. So you might have to take Colossal Fighter and hope your opponent doesn't roll well on Lucky Straight. He's going to go ahead with the safer play, which is Dracosack. Go ahead and get him 2 tokens. The question is, what's he going to do with that? He can't turtle up here because he only has 2 cards left in his deck. He's going to destroy the Colossal Fighter with Dracosack. That solves the battle problem. Now, can he get 2 more level 7 monsters on the field? I see a lot of titles in there. Alright, goes ahead and banishes Dracosack and a Tempest to summon a Tempest. Dracosack is wind. Not a dragon, though. Next is Intense Thought. don't know, the way he's reading that Lucky Straight, I think he wants to try to take it.
What could his opponent do to prevent that? Basically just Effect Veiler, right?
Yep, Effect Veiler. So he's got a Dragon, and he's got a Trifortress Ops, and his opponent has 5,200 life points left. So if you roll a 6 on Lucky Straight, you get a 4,200 attack point monster. And that, along with Trifortress Ops, would be enough to win the duel, because his opponent's only at 52. And you got just enough monster card zones left to do it. And here we go.
Pulls it off. Wow.
This duel basically comes down to...
A dice roll.
yeah. Although Lucky Straight is still at 3,500, so if he can get another monster that has enough attack points, he could do it. But obviously, that's not the case with full monster card zones, so he's going for a 6 and does not get it. But it's not a once per turn effect, so he could try again. Which he still didn't get. 2 3s. And neither one of them was a 7. That could have just sent everything else away. So he's got a 2,100 attack Lucky Straight and a Trifortress Ops. And he can't summon any more monsters because all of his monster card zones are full. Goes ahead, turns the Trifortress Ops to attack position, and attacks directly with both. Take a look at the rest of his hand. And he's done for the turn. Now the key here is to make it through Suebyobol's turn intact. What Suebyobol's probably going to do is try to wall up, because Big Eye cannot take any more monsters since there aren't any monster card zones. Alright, discarding Stream. Goes ahead and gets the last title out of his deck. I'm going to go ahead and banish Stream and another Stream to get title out of the graveyard. And normally when you see 2 titles on the field, that means you're going to be looking at a Mermail Abyss in the near future. Next up, Redox and a Tempest are taking a hike, or maybe not. Blaster's taking a hike to summon Tempest. That is a large pile of banished dragons. I can't tell if that's nearly all of the dragons I think that you're able to play in your deck. That's his graveyard.
That's...
Yeah, all these piles of cards get moved all over the place. Alright. Redox and Blaster were both banished. That means that he's going to go ahead and get a Flamvell Guard, which is a tuner, and a Reactin. Normal summon, Flamvell Guard. See, he's playing a Red Dragon Archfiend in his extra deck. But he seems more tempted to go for one of the 2 Crimson Bladers, which he eventually does. And he's still got 2 more dragons on the field. Crimson Blader goes ahead, attacks Lucky Straight, destroying it. Tidal goes ahead and takes out the Trifortress Hops. And Tempest goes after a Mecha Phantom Beast token. That's probably so that he can go ahead and do something unpleasant to the Big Eye. Like take it with his own Big Eye. Remember what we said at the start? When you start playing Big Eyes, things get messy.
It really looks like it, and it's amazing how this game swings back and forth. If you just look at the boards, constantly changes completely.
It's looking like a kitchen table here. You just throw the cards everywhere.
There's still one more thing he wants to do.
All right, just checking the math to see what Kudo's life points should be at. The dispute seems to be over what the attack points of Lucky Straight were at the time. Should be 2100 as noted there. It's looking like
Seems they got it sorted out now, and he passes his turn.
all right, 2 cards left, and the first thing he does is tribute a Big Eye for Eradicator Epidemic Virus. He called spell cards, which means that's Super Rejuvenation, Heavy Storm, Card Destruction, all gone. Which leaves Kudo with just his Swift Scarecrow and Max C. And since Crimson Blader destroyed a monster, he cannot, or destroyed a monster and sent it to the graveyard, he cannot special summon level 5 and higher monsters this turn. Now, it should be noted that if Crimson Blader destroys that token, it does not go to the graveyard because it is a token. But that presumes that Kudo will make it through this turn to see another. And with 3,400 life points, it's looking like that's not going to be the case. Suebyobol's just making absolutely sure, summoning as many dragons as he can, just in case. Because one of those cards is a Swift Scarecrow. But it's not going to help in this case. Swift Scarecrow can only be used against a direct attack, so those 2,600 points are still going to happen when Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger takes out the Mecha Phantom Beast token.
So he's at 800 now, right?
Yep. Obviously,
There
he
comes
has
the
to use
Scarecrow.
the Scarecrow to avoid losing to Crimson Blader, and he draws his last card, which he must reveal due to the virus.
Which is
It's
reminded
Stream,
of.
But, well, there aren't any dragons left in his deck because he hasn't got a deck left. This is it. Can you do 1,500 damage? Right now, it looks like he's checking the attributes of all the monsters in his graveyard, because what basically his only chance is to get as many dragons on the field as possible, and there are two ways to summon them. You can use dragons, or you can use monsters of the Dragon Ruler's attribute. Now he's got a Crimson Blader in there, which is a fire, and he can use any other dragon along with that, for example, to summon the Blaster. As he sits there checking his extra deck, look on his face seems like a, man, I wish I played Lucky Straight in my extra deck kind of look.
No, I think the judges are talking right now and basically telling him through the translator that he needs to make a move.
Mm. Yes, I can't tell what was...
I just checked with the judge. Including time extensions, there are approximately 8 minutes left remaining in this, and we're still in duel 1.
And it looks like another... something else has been added to the match slip.
All right, and we've just been informed that Hiromi Kudo received another slow play warning, which was then upgraded to a game loss for that game.
Wow, but this was a really intense duel, and in the end it didn't really make a difference for him because he probably would have lost it anyway.
I don't know, man. If he had Lucky Straight.
How?
3 dragons and Lucky Straight.
Which, when I asked you about the best rank 7 Exceeds monsters, you didn't even mention.
Yes. It's because it's either the best rank 7 Exceeds monster or the worst. It all depends on how the dice come up.
But I mean, you phrased it perfectly. It is a gutsy move because it comes down to a dice roll, and he got rewarded big because he rolled the combined 7.
Yep.
It could have easily ended up
right back the other
completely
way.
different. Although with Lucky Strike, since you can use the effect more than once per turn, it actually is not as unreasonable as some other dice roll effect.
Alright, so Hiromi Kudo actually just got the game lost, so this is going to game 3 already. From what I hear, there are 8 minutes left in this match, so that's a little bit ridiculous. I don't think I'm going to be able to record the actual like grand finals, though, which kind of kills me, because I have to go to work in about 45 minutes, so it's kind of lame, but... yeah. I'll let this one finish. I'll let these guys finish talking until the next match actually starts, and then I'll start the thing up again, but yeah, I'll do that.
Involved, you know how these things go.
Now, is it likely that we will see any new side deck shenanigans here?
I'm not really expecting it. Kudo does have the Mystical Space Typhoons in his side deck, but they don't really help you against Threatening Roar, since Threatening Roar can just be chained to it. He's got Eradicator viruses. He might try to give Suebyoubol a taste of his own medicine from that last game and destroy the Threatening Roars before they can be set.
I actually think he put Mystical Space Typhoons in his deck right now.
Well,
If I saw it correctly, he put them on the pile that now becomes his deck.
I'm not really sure what that's going to get him. But, you know, you're down a game, you got to try everything.
I'm actually going to end this one here, and I'll let the next one start. This is a very long video, so...